Good morning from Portland, Oregon. It's Thursday, October 9th, and the question on so many folks' minds is, will the military remember their oath to the Constitution? Not gonna lie, I see an awful lot of people crashing out over this, and it's really easy to get yourself really wound up and then go down in a doom spiral, right? It's that getting really escalated, and then it's the freaking out afterward, right? It's the up and down, the emotional roller coaster. As your anxiety builds over the unknown, it's much easier to catastrophize and to pretend like you can mind read other people or that you have a crystal ball to look into the future. I don't want to minimize how big people's feelings are right now because the stakes are very, very high, but I do want to remind you that feelings are not facts. And with that framework in mind, let's take a second here and check some facts. I'm going to be referencing a piece that came out yesterday, October 8th, in the Oregonian. It's by Zane Sparling, and it is discussing a piece of testimony that was given in front of Oregon lawmakers about 10 days ago. It's testimony from Brigadier General Alan A. Gronwald in front of the Oregon State Senate Subcommittee. Now, this testimony came before Judge Immergut issued her two rulings that Donald Trump has no authority to deploy the National Guard to Portland or anywhere else in our state. Right, Trump initially tried to call up a couple hundred Oregon National Guard members to put them in Portland, I guess because ICE, which is currently the 15th largest military in the entire world, is incapable of handling unarmed protesters in frog suits and tutus doing the cha-cha slide. And so they need a couple hundred members of the National Guard to come help them. Right? It's important that we look at what's actually happening here. This is political theater. This is Donald Trump trying to use our service members as political pawns. Right? This is cargo cult fascism. This is all of that bluster, all of that veneer, all of that threat and intimidation with nothing behind it. There's no riot in Portland. There's no rebellion. The police, the mayor, our congresswomen, our senators, the governor have all said, we don't need any help here. There is fuck all going on. So when you see Trump and Kristi Noem on the news trying to say that Portland is a city on fire and a war zone, please understand that's absolute and complete bullshit. And that when you examine the facts of the situation, you have to ask yourself, why is it that they're trying to put a couple hundred troops here to help the 15th largest military force in the world, which is currently operating completely outside of the law against unarmed kids who are wearing Lilo and Stitch outfits and chicken suits and handing out cookies and blowing bubbles. Okay, getting back to this testimony from the Brigadier General less than 2 weeks ago, here's what he said.
I don't want to speculate on what level of training they will be trained in or what they will be authorized to perform as far as rules for the use of force. The Title X headquarters will provide that training to them. It is my understanding, however, that protective crowd control will be one of the things they're trained upon. And I will provide my advice to the Title X commander that Oregon National Guard men and women they serve two purposes: one, to defend America, and two, to protect Oregonians. And so by serving this mission, they will be protecting any protesters at the ICE facility.
They will be protecting any protesters at the ICE facility. Their job is to defend America and protect Oregonians. The general went on to answer questions about Donald Trump's Truth Social post where he said he was authorizing, quote, full force by the soldiers. Remember, cargo cult fascism. This is a paper tiger. This is language that is meant to be incendiary. It is meant to scare the shit out of you. But as the general said, that term full force is, quote, not a doctrinal term that the Army uses. It doesn't have any meaning than to try and scare the shit out of you and make you think the members of our National Guard are going to brutalize civilians if Donald Trump wants them to. And what do we just hear from the general? They will be protecting Oregonians. They will be protecting protesters at the ICE facility if the court deems that they are going to be placed here. As of right now, they are not allowed. They're not allowed to be here. Judge Immergut ruled that there is no basis for Donald Trump to federalize and to position National Guard members in Oregon. And that has been appealed to the Ninth Circuit, where they are considering it later today. There is no date at which they will rule. The Ninth Circuit did affirm that while they are considering the appeal, National Guard troops cannot be used in Oregon, at least not by Donald Trump. I'm going to play one more clip here from the general's testimony.
Please. My number one concern is the protection and the care of my soldiers while they're deployed on this mission. And many of our citizens will not see a distinction between our Oregon National Guard, citizen soldiers, and ICE agents, Federal Protective Service agents, and other federal agents. And I would just like to request of each of you, and please pass this on to your colleagues, that our soldiers we're the home team. And our job is to protect and serve Oregonians. And we follow lawful orders, and that's what we're doing, and to please treat them with dignity and respect.
According to this piece in the Oregonian, Gronwald said something similar in his September 29th letter to the troops. I know some of you have strong feelings about the mission. That's okay. You are citizens first, but you're also service members who took an oath to support and defend the Constitution and to follow the orders of the president and the governor. That oath doesn't come with an asterisk that says, only when I agree with the mission. The general was very clear with the troops under his command. Your oath is not just to the president, it is to the Constitution, and that you are citizens of the United States first. The general also brings up something here that I think is really, really important for us to remember, and I've been trying to drive home this point, that not all federal troops, federal agents, federal forces are the same. We have to have nuance, and we have to understand the differences when we are engaging with untrained former Proud Boys oath keepers who work for ICE versus highly trained members of our military, especially when we're looking at Oregon National Guard members. Those are our neighbors. Those are Oregonians, right? We have to have different tactics and a different understanding of how we need to be engaging with them. We learned from California when Donald Trump tried all his shenanigans down there that members of the National Guard feel used, disrespected, their morale is very low. When we look at the Otpor movement in Serbia that was used to topple Slobodan Milosevic, one of the key elements that made all of the difference in them being able to topple an authoritarian was that they were constantly reaching out to members of the military and members of the police. They were constantly reminding them of our humanity and of theirs. And I cannot overstate how crucial that is. We have got to lean into our humanity whenever possible. What enables members of the military to enact violence against their neighbors is dehumanization. We have to remind them, I'm an Oregonian. I'm a real person. You are a real person. Remember, one of the tactics in Serbia was that they stood up. They didn't scream in the face of the military. They said, when the time comes, you'll do the right thing. Look at us. I could be your neighbor, right? Your son could be in the crowd behind me. Your brother could be in the crowd behind me. Your pastor is in the crowd behind me. Looking them in the eye, having compassion, reminding them of their humanity and of ours. That is a tactic with so much more power than people realize. It is so much more effective when you are dealing with folks who are not ICE. I mean, I would argue that reminding ICE of our humanity also matters. What we heard from kids who are protesting down at the ICE facility here in Portland is that the majority of folks from ICE don't want to look in the eyes of the protesters because they know what they're doing is wrong. Their conscience is troubling them for most of those guys. Especially when we are looking at our service members who are in the armed forces, who are in the National Guard, we have an opportunity here. We have a chance to have a conversation with them face to face, to remind everybody that we're all on the same side. It is the American people versus the authoritarian regime of Donald Trump. And I think what we heard in that testimony from the general very much echoes that. If you're really, really worried about what the troops are going to do, I encourage you to check the facts. I encourage you, take a moment, take a deep breath, don't spiral. The regime wants you to spiral. They want you to panic. They want you to be afraid of the military, and they want you to be afraid to stand up for your rights. This is the moment in history where it is not so much what the regime does, it is how we respond. Think about what you're communicating to your neighbors. Think about the way that you are interacting and having conversations with troops. Are my words and my actions furthering the goal of holding the line against the regime? Am I being courageous? Am I helping other people find and hold their courage? We're not going to give them a riot, and we're not going to cower in fear. We're going to be disciplined, we're going to check the facts, and we're going to hold the line.